Welcome to Sideline to Baseline with your hosts MB and K Lou. MB's in the background, trying to make sure everything is going well. But tonight we have a special guest and a special group of folk that have come to celebrate Coach James Henry. Coach graduated from New Haven High School in 1976. That's just a couple years before I was born, Coach. At New Haven, he lettered in baseball, basketball, and track and was named all league, all county, and all state, and all everything. That's what he was. Then he graduated from there, chose the University of Michigan to go to college, and there is where it all began. On a full track scholarship, James was a 4-year Wolverine letter winner. He was the first athlete to jump 25 feet and qualify 4 times for the NCAA National Championship. James won the 1980 Big Ten long jump title and helped the U of M to the 1978 indoor, 1978 outdoor, and the 1980 outdoors Big Ten championships. Go Big Blue. Now, this is where it really gets ridiculous, and I had to cut some of this off because the accolades is just purely amazing. Personally coached 3 athletes who became Olympians, 17 NCAA championship individual titles, 2 NCAA championships, podium team finishes. This is just him as a head coach and assistant coach for 40 years at U of M.
Is that a hey K Lou, is that American 42 years number or pesos?
Yeah, 46 total when you add him being there and graduating from there. And we just getting started. 8 NCAA championships, top 10 team finishes, 193 All-American finishes, 17 Big Ten championship team titles, 219 Big Ten 10 championship individual titles. So that means 219 people walk across that thing with Big Ten championships. That's just amazing. Not just on the track, but in the classroom, Coach Henry showed up and showed out as well, having 11 Big Ten Medal of Honor winners as head coach, 11 all academic team honorees, 3 academic All-Americans, 20 academic All-Americans at total. Listen, 27 academic all-district honorees, 111 all academic individuals. Listen, it just keeps growing and growing and growing. This guy got it done, not just on the track, but in the classroom, and he's just purely amazing. And I just like to quote what he said after he retired from Michigan, and that's why we all here. My time at Michigan has truly been a labor of love, from student athlete to assistant coach to the first Black head coach that the university ever hired, to co-head coach and to be back as an assistant coach. I guess that's what they call full circle. Henry said in a statement, man, listen, it's just purely amazing. Coach, we here for you. And we love, we got a bunch of people here that come and just celebrate you. And we're just going to right now just say thank you, Coach, for all the years. And we're going to start off with you, asking you a little bit about, talk about your background a little bit, Coach, and from growing up, and how was it growing up and then discovering that the love for track.
Well, I thank you very much for all the accolations. I know it's going to kill my wife because that's not a word, but I create my own words, and that's one that I've created, and it'll be in the dictionary one day. But I really appreciate it. I've just been so fortunate, so lucky to have so many friends and people close to me to guide me correctly. And coming from such a small town in New Haven, that's made it very fortunate, because I knew every house, every street, every corner. everything about New Haven. It's been the friendliest town in New Haven, and it helped me get through coming to the University of Michigan, which was the biggest place I've ever seen in the world, coming from my hometown, New Haven. So I was able to do some great things in New Haven and get accomplishments for it, as well as I was able to do some bad things and get away with it. Yeah. So I hope we don't talk too much about the bad stuff, but I took everything to an extreme. I worked hard, I trained hard, I competed hard, and unfortunately I did some bad things that was hard, and I got away with some of that stuff. But it's just a pleasure to be able to see my friends, my loved ones, and the folks that care about me, and hopefully will say positive things about me. And it's because I've picked the best people to be my best friends. And I've also been able to pick the best athletes to make the accomplishments that I've made. It's just so challenging to grab student athletes that are 80% there with great parents and great backgrounds. And I brought them into the program, and then all I had to do is sit back and water them. I didn't have to give them fertilizer. I didn't have to pull the weeds out. They're all set and go. All I have to do is show love, and boy, they do well for me. And a lot of the things that's been accomplished was just based on me conning my athletes to do some things that they thought they could never do. And talk is cheap, but I got a lot of value out of my talk.
Well, Coach, we gonna stop you right there because you jumped the gun too fast. You know, went straight to the athletes, and we want to talk a little bit more about you being a friend and you and your childhood. And we got two guys in the game for this. Ed, take it away, man. Tell us the truth.
Well, he hit it on the nail. He was right because before him, it was his brother. Then I went from his brother to him. Mm-hmm. His brother did stuff I didn't do. I was a mama's boy, and he was a mama's boy. And I knew him, but I used to go to the house. He there, but I never talked and hung with him. I always hung with his brother. How we met was I was on my dad's porch. He was going to the gas station to get some gas, and I said, hey, where you going? He said, I'm going to get Doberman. I said, can I go? He said, oh, yeah, you can go. So I went with him. Then we went to the house on 7 Mile Road down there, and they looked good. I said, oh, man, I'm working. I said, I have money, nothing in my pocket. I said, well, I get paid Friday. I wish I can get one. He said, oh, I'll buy it. So he bought the dog, and ever since then, boom, we were friends. Yeah.
The only change with that is that my brother was a weed head.
I didn't want to put all that out there.
And Ed was hanging with my brother, and I would get upset by the way he treated him. Once I started talking to him, Ed would tell me that my brother would tell him that go get us some weed, and he'd give my brother, he'd give Ed a nickel, and then Ed would go buy $5 with the weed. And the same thing with the dime. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing that for? And I said, if you're going to hang with me, I'm not doing that stuff. And he stopped doing it, and we've been close ever since. It's been over 50 years that we've been friends.
Wow.
Yep. When he went to Michigan, I was there. First, he didn't say he was going to Eastern. But then he said, what's up there on that hill? Then Brandon said, Michigan? Oh, I want to go to Michigan. So we took him to Michigan. Mm-hmm. That's how he ended up there. But I've been going there since he been going there every week. Sometimes, like if I get laid off a month, I'm up there a whole month. So, and then he was the best man at my wedding and everything. So, because at my wedding, the man said, would you, Ed Sims, take Robin to be up? I'm standing like I was in La La Land. James hit me. You got to say I do. Oh, I do. So good. we he's good. He was a good friend, and like a brother, And then when we played softball, I was left field, he was left center. Everything we did, we was beside each other.
Wow.
and I always had to get him right because Ed didn't know what to do, as we would say. We would play baseball over the summer and play $5 a game, and we win 3 games. So my brother would give me my $15 and wouldn't give Ed anything. And I said, Ed, you get your money? He said, what money? I said, your $15 damn dollars. What are you talking about? They were taking the money and pooling it together and buying beer, and Ed wasn't giving his money. So I made him go over and get his darn money. So I always had to push him to do certain things because he was just so laid back. That sort of bothered me a little bit.
Yeah, but I didn't even know we was getting paid. Then I seen him get some money. I said, what kind of money you getting? And my money we put in. I said, they never gave me no money. Drink.
So I always had to push him into doing stuff. So I was his guardian angel.
So what was I?
Anthony, we ain't gonna leave you out, man. Jump in there, talk to us about them earlier days.
With the earlier days with me and James was mostly can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
We hear you talk.
Go ahead.
Uh-oh.
We hear you.
Go ahead.
Hello?
We hear you talk. Just start talking. We hear you.
Okay. Yeah. My earlier days with
you messed
with
up.
James was when we were in school and
we
there must be a delay on this thing. Because okay, well anyway, we participated in sports in school and everything, and when it came to track, he really knew his business. We I don't know, I think he used to go to the library and read up on certain things, because anytime you had a question, you didn't even have to go to our head coach. You could just go to James. He can answer that question. He seemed to be so knowledgeable that he was pretty much a coach in high school, and he helped us greatly because a lot of times, it's hard to go to the head coach, and James would give you information. Sometimes I don't know if he was, making some things. Tried it anyway. You just tried it anyway. And then when you found having success, then you just keep on going with it.
Wow.
So, maybe that we came together. It was mainly with sports related things, and then all out together at lunchtime. We used to have a group that hung out together in front of the cafeteria, and we would have a ball. We would sit there and discuss what happened that week, because that was huge. Samson was like the best world, but these radios and the TV reception on it, so that he could be at the games on Friday and not miss Sanford and Son. That pretty much, we had when he started going to Michigan, me and we would go to Michigan at Bay tennis match against a Per Johnson, and they're just every weekend could, and we have that match. There's as we can, but they would all we got up there. It seemed like it was even like it was a good time. time and work all week, so it like enjoyed itself in Michigan, and we just out bowling. He was roaming.
I guess we gotta hit Annan on the post show.
Yeah, he gone. Yeah, he gone.
Hey, we gonna go straight to college with Coach. And when I say college, when he was at college, Arnett, you go tell us a few stories, man.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna tell you a few stories.
Yeah, you got some too.
Yeah, Coach Henry probably doesn't want me on here, but with the stories that I told him I won't tell. But, I was Coach Henry's host when he came up on his visit, and I'm trying to show him everything. Trying to get to know the athletes. See if they fit in with the team. Well, guess what? He didn't fit in with the team. So, like I always say, when he came up on his recruiting visit, he was a real asshole. And so I went to the coach and I said, hey, we don't want him here because he's not, he won't fit in with this team. And so while I was on the team, I was a hurdler, sprinter, long jumper, ran all the relays. And first day, my sophomore year, who do I see? James Henry. I said, well, I'll be damned. The coach didn't listen to me. I'm one of the good guys on the team. I'm trying to tell him who to bring on the team that can mess with the rest of the team. So what ends up happening, we don't talk to each other for probably the first month or so. And then finally one day we ended up having a conversation, and we've been close friends ever since. Wow. To the point that we've coached together. We've coached a lot of Olympic, athletes, coached a lot of Big Ten meets. And it got to the point sometimes that we just about think the same about certain things, when we're coaching the athletes, how we think we can make them faster or changing up a relay or something like that. And, it's really been a very good relationship between both of us. I think he's, of course, one of the best coaches that's ever come to the women's track program, because he's really been the only coach there, that has, done some significant things, brought in some very good athletes, and, won a lot of championships. So you can stop breathing hard, Coach Henry, because I'm not going to tell the stories that I said I was going to tell.
I really want to hear how he was an a-hole during the recruiting trip, though.
What's that? Well, for one, it's like you try to get people excited about the school, about the program, and he wasn't excited at all. He was just playing hardball. Then, to top it off, he says, I want to meet the basketball coach. Because later he told me that his whole idea was to come to Michigan like he was going to run track, but then he was going to try out for the basketball team. So we've never had anybody come up and ask to speak to another coach or meet another coach or just act like they weren't even interested. And I'm sitting there thinking, this is the University of Michigan. We're the Wolverines. Why are you acting like, we aren't anything? So
you've always been James Henry, James.
Well, that story is true.
With us that I just didn't get along with him on his recruiting visit.
Well, the story is true, and that was my plan. I was up during the summer before the fall started, and I was at CCRB, which is the rec center, and I was playing with Tommy Staten and Dave Baxter and Phil Hubbard and Ricky Green, and those were players on the basketball team. And they said, man, you should try out. And I asked them, when was it? And that was my overall plan. And it turned out that Old Country, New Haven, we have our basketball season, and it ends in February. And then we had our track season. We didn't do that stuff early. So when he told me I couldn't go out for the basketball team, I said, you're a lie. I can go out, because it was just September. It was early. It was early in the year, and I went and wanted to head down there, and the coach called me and said, "Coach," said, "Henry, you got to come to practice." And so there goes my dream deferred. But I wasn't. I was just confident about myself. Others would call that a megalomaniac, but I was confident in me, and I didn't want these big time people from Inkster thinking that I was some wuss and you can walk all over me. So I was from New Haven. So I was trying to hold my own, trying to represent New Haven town.
Represent New Haven, New Haven. Because you started sounding like T.O. a little bit, Terrell. On I love me some meat.
Yeah, and the other thing about it, we became such close friends that like I told you, I was a long jumper. I decided I wasn't gonna long jump anymore. I was just gonna focus on hurdles and sprinting because I wanted him to be able to make the traveling squad. So if I didn't long jump,
so you took one for the team.
Spot on the team, that's the kind of friend I was.
See, there's always two sides of that story. There's his side and my side, and then there's the truth. My side was that I came in and I put him on the bench. He was jumping 23 feet. I said, that's okay. And I started jumping 24 plus, and I said, you better just take care of hurdles because you can't handle this. So that's my side of the story.
And you're sticking to it, huh?
Numbers don't lie, Arnett.
Hey, I know. Hey, before we circle back on that, Arnett, I want to go to Top because I know she's on vacation in Mexico, and so I want to give her an opportunity to go ahead and talk. Go ahead, Top.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I am so honored to be here. Coach Henry has been, for those of you who don't know, Tiffany O'Keefe Porter, graduated from the University of Michigan under Coach Henry and Coach Chiz's tutelage, if you will. And they've both been very instrumental parts of my journey, not only as an athlete, but as a woman. So I remember Coach Henry coming to my house for my recruiting visit back in 2005. I'm dating myself now. And my mother is a pregnant woman. They always wanted me to go to Michigan, but it was very important for them to just meet the coach and get a vibe for how he was going to be as a coach and as a man. And the minute he left, it was 100% undeniable that that's where I was going to go. I didn't even finish my visits. And my mom said, you're going to go to Michigan and he's going to do a great job. And she was completely right. My first year at the University of Michigan, Coach Henry and Coach Chiz helped me to win a Big Ten title. I qualified for nationals, and then the success that I was able to achieve on the track was just storybook and something that I will always really hold close to my heart. He said in his introduction that he didn't really have to do much and he never really fertilized athletes, but I don't agree with that. In my experience, he really took the time to help nurture me on the physical aspect of being an athlete, but also mentally, to help me be mentally strong to be able to take on some challenges that I even face now as an adult outside of the track. So while at Michigan, we were able to win 5 national championships together. We broke numerous records that my baby sister then came and broke after I graduated. He helped me to get my first professional contract with Adidas. And he and Coach Chiz coached me to my very first Olympic Games, which was literally a dream come true. And during all that time, despite the success that I had on the track, one thing that they always pushed and emphasized was to get that degree and just make sure that I'm getting it done in the classroom as well. I know sometimes coaches get a bad rap of only caring about one aspect of you as a woman, but that was not my experience with Coach Henry at all. He really made sure that he just developed well-rounded women, and I was able to graduate as a result of that with my doctorate of pharmacy, and now I've been a practicing pharmacist for 10 years, and just being able to hang up the spikes now after having an amazing, by the grace of God, track career, and now being a pharmacist, I still look very fond on the memories that I made while at the University of Michigan. So, so many great memories. Coach Henry and Miss Henry and Coach Chiz and all the coaches were at my wedding. I was at Coach Henry's daughter's wedding, at her bridal shower. They came to my baby shower. He used to coach my husband and myself on ballroom dancing, and honestly, he's become family. So yeah, it's just been an amazing experience, amazing relationship. And honestly, I can speak for many, many athletes when I say that he was just an incredible human, incredible coach, incredible man. And I just couldn't imagine how my life would have been had I not had those interactions with Coach Henry while at the University of Michigan.
Pretty awesome.
Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. And then I remember I keep talking to you about the letter that you wrote, just like how Kobe wrote a letter to basketball. You read a letter to track, and you referenced. I was telling Coach about it. He didn't even get a chance to see it. Can you share just a little bit about what you wrote in the letter to Coach?
Absolutely. It was actually my very first blog post that I wrote on my website, www.tipophelia, if you've never checked it out. And it was my love letter to track and field. And I kind of just went through my whole journey from how I fell in love with track and field in middle school to how I got that scholarship to the University of Michigan, and how Coach Henry and Coach Chiz really poured into me in a way that I don't think many coaches really understand the impact that they have on an athlete in those very critical moments of their development. So just looking back now, we were really able to create magic. Like, I look back and I'm going to be able to have such fond memories to tell my daughter and to just tell her about all the great things that I was able to achieve on the track, not only because of, the talent that God blessed me with, but with the nurturing and the care and the dedication that Coach Henry and Coach Chiz did on the track, and literally was life-changing. Track has opened so many doors for me, and I'm just very grateful.
Okay, and I man, well said. I know you got to go, but one thing, let's talk about this very important subject before you got to go. What pranks? I know Coach is a big jokester. What pranks did Coach get you with? Did he get you with the farting gag? What's one of the famous pranks that Coach got you with?
I don't even know where to begin. I think one that really resonates with me was the Halloween prank, where he would just stand still and kind of blend into the decor and then jump out at you. As a college student, you have a million things on your mind. You're not thinking about your coach playing pranks on you, and you come into the track and nearly have a heart attack. So that was what he used to always get us with. And then my freshman year, he used to tease that I was always very naive. So he would crack jokes, and he had an apple orchard in his backyard, and I, just being the trusting young woman that I was, believed him. So he just always played tricks and played pranks, and that was just a part of the relationship. And it definitely made for a really enjoyable experience at practice.
Nice. Now, Coach, before she goes, anything you want to say to her, Coach, before you?
Well, she's just such a sweetheart. All of my kids, my young ladies are, they just blossom as such beautiful individuals. But she was very, very naive. And that's what I hope many of my athletes weren't naive, but they trusted me. And I just didn't want them to be at a point in which they were so uptight and they were worried and they were scared. And I want to be loose. And sometimes they were I would go overboard, and Tiffany and Betty Wade and Casey, well, coach us in the pro. And then it'd be after the fact, and I would have said it. But her naiveness, if that's a word, that's another word we'll have, is that I don't know if she remember this or not, but her husband, Jeff, came to me and Chiz one day and said, "Coaches, would y'all do me a favor?" I said, "What?" He said, "Would y'all stop lying to Tiffany? Because she believes everything that you guys are saying. You don't have an orchard in your basement. You don't have a twin. Why are you telling her this? She believes it all." And I said, "Well, I know now I got her, because now I knew that she would do what we wanted her to do when it was very important." And we would lie to her sometimes about a race. We would say, "Tiffany, we heard so-and-so, she said she's going to kick your butt. She said she don't care nothing about you. She said, oh, that heifer. Oh, I'm going to beat that heifer." And then she would get all motivated and excited, and she would do the job. And that's what I did with all of the kids, all of the young ladies. All of them would tell you that I did something crazy, and she was at the top of that list, and she sort of fell for it, including Mary and Jeff. By me and Chiz told her she was going to marry that man. Jeff would come over, and like a peacock, he'd show us stuff, and he's so loud. And Tiffany would say, "Oh, I hate that boy. I hate him. Oh, I hate him." And then she'd walk away. Then we say, "Tiffany, You marrying that man. You in love with that man. Oh, I just don't like him. Oh, he's so obnoxious. They've been married 7, 8, 9 years now. So I knew that we knew that was going to happen. But I'm so proud of her being the only person that's won 5 national titles in a row. That is phenomenal. She should have won a 6th title in the terms that we had a young lady that passed one year. Joy Smith passed in 2.7, 2.8 or whatever. And Tiffany was just a zombie. She was just out of it. And it wasn't appropriate for me to try to be funny and try to be this or try to be that. So she made it to the finals, but I can tell that her head wasn't there. And she was thinking about Joy Smith. But 5 titles in a row.
Nice.
Go back and look in the record books. You ain't going to see that happen. That just happened.
Amen.
So congratulations.
Great job.
And being a doctor at the same time. So now she's Dr. Ophelia.
Yes.
Got it all.
Dr. Top. Dr. Top. Hey, Arnett, Coach Arnett, I know before she go, anything you want to say to her as well, Coach?
What about his pranks or what?
No, anything you want to say to Top before she go, because Tiffany got to go. Anything?
Oh, Tiffany was one of our greatest athletes that we ever had on the team. Like I said, I kind of knew what buttons that I could push to make her run her best times. And I can remember her freshman year. It was outdoors when she won her first Big Ten. Indoors, she took 2nd place. And I walked up to her and stood behind her right before she ran and said, "You let that first championship get away from you. I want this race over with by the 3rd hurdle." And I'd be doggone if by the 3rd hurdle, she wasn't almost 2 hurdles ahead. And she ended up breaking the school record. I think she ran like 13.3, and her fastest time before that had been like 13.7. And everybody was just totally shocked and amazed that she could run that fast. But then she still wasn't finished. So, Tiffany has been one of the greatest athletes that we've had come through the University of Michigan.
Amen. Great job, Doctor. Appreciate you. And she did it the right way too. No drugs and nothing like that.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, guys. It was an honor to be here. Coach Henry and Coach Chisholm, thank you so much for all that you've done. Your legacy will live on and all the athletes that you touched.
Enjoy yourself, sweetie. Proud of you.
Thank you.
We love you. Thank you so much.
Tiffany.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye. Hey, now speaking of buttons, or Coach Arnett, he left. I'll run with you. Speaking of pushing the right buttons, Coach, tell me about this prank that Coach was telling me about when you was at I guess y'all was at the Big Ten tournament, and he said you called all the girls into the room and y'all set them up, and you had a button where the fart button, and you had this button on that.
I especially the big meets, I would make sure that meets were a part of what I would do. I have this little fart button, and I put them on the table, and then the first person would get it first, and then the next person would get the other person to get it. So I would go stretching her, and then all of a sudden I hit the button and go, or Cheers would hit the button and go, like this Friday. I said, "You dirty dog." And then she would say, I promise it wasn't me. I didn't do that. And then we do it to the next person, and then the next person, the next person. And then there was times in which they were just afraid to come into our room. They would use our phone, and we put a big roach on the phone when they pick up the phone. Or we had a remote control mouse run across. Or we would have a bag of candy, and some of the girls would just reach in there and grab stuff, and there might be a little spider in there or a little mouse or something. Or I would have water over the door. They walk in and water would fall on them. So we did every imaginable joke that you can imagine just to get the kids to get their mind off of this simple thing called running, jumping, hurdling, and sprinting. And then they were loose when they were able to go out and do it. They knew that Coach wasn't taking it very serious, and then they can be themselves and they can accomplish their track performances thereafter. But I did every year I would do a trick, not a trick, but a April Fool's joke. and I spelled my name backwards. You know, Simage. I said, Dr. Simage so-and-so wants you to come to the reunion and take photos because of X, Y, and Z, whatever the case is. Then me and Chiz would be sitting in the union and watch them show up and expect that to happen. And then they say, you got me again. So jokes is what I'm all about. My wife will attest to that. She tells me I'm a big joke anyway. So
May I please
Well,
tell this one?
speaking of your wife, Coach, can you talk about the first time you got met and how you came about dating and all that?
Well, she chased me until she got a hold of me. You seen this big mandingo. She said, man, I got to have him. So I sort of played the game. But really, I was a DJ. I always had something going on. I was photography, DJing. I do whatever I could. And I would get $25 a night to do a DJ. So me and some of my friends was down in the South Quad, putting together a poster for a party, and she comes through. I don't know if she was roller skating, I don't know if she was just running, or I don't know what she was doing, but she came through, and the guys called me, quote, a megalomaniac, and I looked at her and I said, I'm gonna marry that girl. She doesn't know it, but I'm gonna marry her. And they say, yeah, right, whatever, yeah, right. I said, no, really, if I can get a hold of that girl, I'm going to give all these other, I only have one or two other girls I was playing with. I'm going to give all the other girls up if I can get that girl. And then I was rooming with Butch Wolfo. And he had this thing about he would be upset if he brought a girl over, nothing bad, or if I brought a girl over, he would be upset if I knew that girl because he was a football player and he was handsome and all that stuff. And I was just this big, bulky, ugly, guy, this Hulk. And he would bring people over that he said I didn't know. And he would bring a girl over and I said, hey, hi, Pam, how you doing? He said, you know her? I said, yeah, I know her. So we had this thing that we didn't want to mess with the same kids or the same girls. But she came over and I said, damn, she's a football girl. And a football girl is one of those girls that's gorgeous, she's beautiful, and they think a quarterback is a piece of money or something. They didn't know the sport. And it was just an airhead. And he has so many airheads come into the apartment that we lived in, and they did some really stupid stuff. Like he had one kid come out with nothing on but a smile in his room and just go get some water and come back in. And I said, Butch, why'd you do that? He said, well, she's so stupid, she'll do anything. And I'm like, don't do that. He had one kid do a backward flip.
That wasn't me, please.
It wasn't her. So she was never one of those, but she had, from my perspective, a crush on him and not a crush on me, and whatever that case was. And it turned out I had hurt my knee, had a catastrophic injury that I still can't use it. I still got a big leg, little leg. And I was on drugs, the official drugs, pain drugs. And she would come and somehow we started up a conversation, and I lie about everything. So I don't know if I told her I was a drug addict or a drug off of drugs or alcoholic or whatever. Then I got I got that sympathy look, and then that's where I said, okay, I'm going to make whatever I consider my move was. But I kept lying. And then somehow she pulled away from the handsome guy. She said, I'm gonna go on the other side now. You know how these women are. They get these handsome fellas that don't treat them right. And then they said, well, okay, let me go with something black and ugly. And she said, well, let me just try him. And I treated her well. So my truth to the story is I asked her out for our first date to a concert. That's my truth.
Right.
And my friend Ed was around. And my friend Ed heard Butch curse her out and say, no, you're not going out with James Henry. Not James Henry. Anybody but James Henry. No, not James Henry. Now, I don't know the truth.
Tell the truth.
That's the truth.
Listen, I don't know the truth, but Ed will go to his grave and say that was the truth. And I told my wife, she said, no, that never happened. So I don't make a big deal out of it. All I know is that I've been around Ed for 55 years and I only been around my wife for 40 years. So I'm not sure who to believe. And I don't really care. All I know is that we went to a concert. We went out and I dropped all these other knuckleheads because she's a beautiful lady. She has a great mind and a great mind, and she's smart, and she knows sports. She knows more sports than I know. So I'll say, boo, who's this player? Who's this? Who's that? She's really, really smart in athletics, and she's a pretty woman, and she's a good woman, and we've been together ever since, and we're still together. So that's my truth. Now, Ed tell it differently, so I don't know who to believe. So you can tell you.
Hey, let me say this. Hold on. I told you you better marry her. She the best thing I seen you had.
And he did. He told me that. He said, "You go ahead and marry that girl." I said, "Well, okay, I'll marry her."
Well, good.
So we've been together ever since.
Well, I don't know about that, but I don't know all the facts about that Butch. But if he told her don't go out with you, she ain't listen to him. So,
No,
I'm going with her truth. Because if he told her, hey, don't go out with that dude, and she still went out with you, child, please.
Well, her truth was that she asked me. I remember we met at a job fair somewhere, and then I made whatever move was appropriate to get her to stay involved with me. So I'm not quite sure how it happened, but that's my truth. But we're still together, and she haven't kicked me out yet.
Well, like you said, it's two sides to every story. So, First Lady, go ahead, Miss Michelle. Tell your side how you end up how
tell us what really happened.
Yeah. So
what really happened? What happened was
I didn't go to that place. Okay, I'll just say that when I was done with school in December of '82. I was looking for a job. I went to a job fair in that January of '83. And I ran into him at the job fair. He and I had been friends through his roommate, of course. And I thought he had a crush on me, but he was never inappropriate. You know, he never tried to cross the line or anything like that. And I really didn't think about him that way at the time. But when we ran into each other at this job fair, he, made it clear that he wanted a little more than friendship. So he sent me a card, and I still have this card. I wish I would have thought to bring it tonight and show you.
We got time. You can go get it.
Big for it. But it's I don't know if you're probably too young to remember James Watt. He was a political figure back then. He wrote, it was a picture of James Watt, and he said, James Watt's his name, wants to get to know you better. And I have the card still. And he invited me to a movie, and we went to a movie and dinner and had a great time. And then the rest is history.
Okay. Coach, instead of from New Haven, you must be from 8 Mile. Hey, you get one shot, got to make you count.
The card was so clever, and I was really impressed with that.
And then over time, now it annoys her when I make these stupid comments, I would guess.
Nice. No, tell me, man, that card did it, but tell me, how did he propose to you?
Oh, yeah, sure. A couple years later, I think he took me to dinner for my birthday. We were at Red Lobster.
I didn't remember all this.
No idea. But we were both dressed up, and I remember that part. And the waiter or the waitress came out with a tray, and it had a white box on it, pretty medium-sized box, I guess. And it was really heavy. And she gave me the box. I had no idea what this was. I guess I thought it was a birthday gift. And I opened it up, and it had some purple aquarium rocks in it. I was so confused, but when I reached down in the rocks, there was a ring box in there. And so he proposed to me at Red Lobster, and yeah, I said yes. We got home. My mom was there. He had a cake and balloons and flowers, and it was very romantic.
Okay. So let me pop that out. Stay on, player.
I think that was the first time I started sweating, because when I asked her to marry me, there was a hesitation. It seemed like it was like 5 minutes of her saying, well, should I go with this thing or should I go? So she finally said yes. And I'm like, whew.
Oh, nice.
The rest is history.
Yep.
Nice, man. That's
We've
awesome.
been married for
That's awesome.
35 years.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I was talking to your son earlier today, Coach, and man, he said something outstanding. He was like, basically, like, he just wants to be like you. And I mean, he said the example that you set as not only as a father, but as a husband as well. Because I say, man, did he set the bar too high? You know, it's like he said, no, he said it right. He said, I know I had a great example of what's required of me as a husband and a father, you know? And I mean to have your son say that, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's I take my hat off to you, Coach. I mean, that's outstanding, you know?
Thank you very much. That warms my heart to know that my son he's a mama's boy, yeah, but he still, you know, says I'm his best friend, and there's things that he do that I'm unaware of that I have to speak to my wife as to what did this stand for. You know, one of, you know, these money things like I don't know what it's called. What's it called when you send in money online?
On Cash App.
One of the Cash Apps. It said, what it is? It says something about me. Second.
It's the second JEH.
And that just warmed my heart to know that, as well as on his wall, as it's called, there's pictures of me when I was young, and he still have pictures of him and me, and allegedly we look alike. So it's a pleasure to know that you're doing it the right way, especially when I was raised up the wrong way or no way. You know, I had no father in my life, and I had no examples of positiveness. So I took the negative stuff and I made it positive. So I've had brothers and sisters that had women that they were hitting on and doing bad things with, and I said, I'm not going to do that. So I did it the positive way, and I don't think I've ever raised my voice to him outside of being his coach, and never raised my voice to my daughter. And I hope that's the legacy that I can leave, that you do it the right way, and you don't have to be a bully or alcoholic or a woman beater or a cheater and all that kinds of stuff. So I try to do it the right way.
Man, well said. I mean, yeah, and that's what he said. He echoed that. I said, you never got a spanking? Ever? He's like, no. I was like, ever? No, I couldn't believe it, you know? I was like, good Lord. He said, me and my sister, we were he said, no, he said we were mature and we just kind of talked everything out, you know? I was like, good Lord. He said, I can count. He probably raised his voice at me twice, you know? And I asked him this, and Miss Michelle, I want you to respond to this as well. I asked him, I said, what's the best quality of your dad, you know? And he said, man, you know what? With all the stuff he had, he was available. He was present. No, he said present.
Wow.
He said he was present. And you know, a lot of times as a father, and you do stuff for your kids, sometimes they don't see the sacrifice you made. I say, did you see that? Somebody has to point that. He said, no, I saw it. He said, there's times where I had a game and he'll leave the team early and catch a red eye, or he'll make sacrifices. He said he don't sleep a lot anyway, but you know he was tired and he'll make a sacrifice to be there, to be present. And I was like, man. And I was like, and then I said, because a lot of times, 42 years as a coach, a lot of times, you know I struggle with that work-life balance. And sometimes we sacrifice the kids on the altar for our careers. But he was like, no, he said, you always made sure that they know they was important, that they was first. But what you have to say about that, Miss Michelle?
I think present is a beautiful word, and I would definitely echo that. I would probably have used a different word, and I will just say that he is the most generous man you will ever meet. And I would say, when I say generous, I'm talking both monetarily, but also in terms of his time. And he gives and gives and gives. He gives to his family. He gives to the village. He gives to strangers. The man just, that's what he does. In terms of what he does with the children, he, would go to their school. He would bring their classes to the house. He was there all the time when he wasn't at the track, of course. But now he's doing the same thing for his grandchildren. He is so present. He's so involved. But like I said, I watch him do it with the extended family and with strangers, kids in the community. I guess it's part of trying to be the opposite of how he was raised, or like he said, wasn't. He wants to make sure that no kid ever wants for anything. And he goes out of his way to do his part for sure.
Right. Well said. And Ed, I want you to talk about an event that Coach does back in New Haven. West Side, New Haven.
Yeah, we got that family reunion in August every year. Every family in New Haven. It don't have to be white, black. Don't make no difference what color you is. You can bring your kinfolk, all that, long as you from New Haven. He buys everything. Only thing everybody got to do, he do the band, he do the part, he do the meat, the food. I mean, I do the cooking, and he just do it just so everybody can be together.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he do it. He want New Haven all be together, still apart. That's why he do it every year. So we've been doing it for a long time, and he's not gonna stop. I can't get through to him. I said, we only need 30 slabs. What about 50 slabs? I said, man, that's a lot of cooking, man. Doggone, man. Then when I say 20 slabs, he said, what about 40 slabs? He just killing me. I can't win. But I do it, because we friends, And he do everything. He do buy TVs and raffle TV. He do everything there.
Yeah.
That's why everybody should show up. Ain't that right, Jones?
Yeah.
Everybody should show up for that.
Amen.
And what he do, we have bands on Fridays in July, every Friday. Our family union have more people they do for 4 Fridays. Everybody shows up.
Amen. And talking about showing up, I'm gonna segue to the double D right here. We got Diane and Dana, and then we got my man Bob bringing up the rear. Once you guys, ladies first, go ahead and talk about how coaching impact you guys' lives and careers. And go ahead,
Dana.
Dana,
I will let you go first as my elder.
Oh, okay.
He's literally only 1 year.
I'm not uncomfortable with that. It's true. She's always looked up to me. So I think I'm one of James's first recruits, and I was really touched and inspired when he let me know that he was recruiting me for track, and I came up my senior year for an indoor meet, and I'd been like second and third in the city and set some Cast Tech records. I got up there and an 8th grader beat me in the finals for the 60. So I was sick during my recruitment trip. And I told Joyce, that's it. That's it. It was good meeting you. It's great being on campus. I got to fill out some more college applications. And James put me up there anyway. And one of the things that I loved is that he respected us. He listened to us. He lied to us a lot. You all have these pranks now, but they were just lies. I was one of the first people to hear that he had a twin, and he told me his sciatica was so badly injured, and he told this so much, and he told so many other lies that I was in my 30s before I found out that sciatica is a real part of the human body. I didn't know all the time. But he also kept us encouraged. And when I was wanting and we were about in the middle, you know, fifth place, fourth at the championships. We paved the way for Tiffany, right? Because we held the middle. And each year, James got it out there, and our times improved, our places improved. So he believed in us, believed in what we were doing. He pushed us education wise, and I gave him some struggles. I fell in love during undergrad, and I made a lot of bad choices. And James said, "You know what, girl? You better get your grades back up, stay focused." 36 years later, I'm still married to that man, two beautiful grown children. James believed in us, and he was at our wedding and there and supporting us. So thank you so much, James. And I can't believe you got Michelle. But, we're like, oh, how did he get her? So well done, James.
And we were at that
I'll
wedding.
turn it
So
over to you, Diane.
My story is a little bit different in that I share a couple of things. I'm from maybe Michigan, so I understood that small town feel coming to a big university, and I was a walk-on from Dundee, Michigan, and big place didn't bother me. I just knew I wanted to run, and coming out from track practice and. The very first time that James had a team meeting, my freshman year, I'm 1986. I'm proud to say that, 86 to 90. And what he shared with us was that in your very first team meeting, it's going to be a fashion show. Now, this was outdoors. And, I had on my Sunday best coming to practice. And all these, there's probably six or seven of us that he had told this lie to. And we're expecting a track fashion show. He said, you're going to walk 100 yards and it's going to be people on all sides and you're going to be judged, this, that, and the other. And then we'll change and we'll go to practice. So I'm naive like Tiffany and everybody else. Maybe Michigan. I mean, yeah. So in my Sunday best, and I literally walked on there, and it was just a few of the ladies in the stands and a few stretches and practices going on. And I'm looking around, and he was like, "You really got dressed? You really got dressed?" And I'm like, "What? You really got dressed? Here's an authority figure telling me something I have to do. I'm going to do it." And so that was my first introduction to like, okay. But even having said that, what I learned about Coach was he was welcoming, he was inclusive. He literally, if you had the passion to run, he was going to be there for you. Me being a walk-on, I'm a Title IX kid. And it was traumatic to really learn what that meant and what was going on. And there were times that he was just there for us. We talked about presence. One of the things I wrote down was his undivided presence. It wasn't like he was just saying things. He was literally talking to you, for you, about you to make you a better athlete. And I totally share what Tiffany and Dana have said in multiple ways of he was just a presence. And it was an undivided presence that he would give to you. The other things I remember was just the big boom voice. I'm one of 9. I got 6 brothers. I talk loud. I never need a microphone. And I had never met someone else who could do that until I met Coach Henry. I mean, you could be across a true outdoor field with baseball practice going on in the other place and just so much. But James would say something and we would all hear him. To this day, I tell my husband and my kids, oh my God, I hear my coach coming back to the meets. Like I hear him. So many jokes, many things. He doesn't know there was a lot of firsts for me. Coming from maybe Michigan, yes, track. I was traveling in state, but he took me on my first plane ride. And that was going to Texas, and I'll never forget it. Like, oh my God, this is huge. Spending money on me and playing. So there was a lot of firsts with him growing up, and him teaching me things to be a professional athlete, be professional about who I am when I travel with the team. The things that I've learned from him personally have just been absolute phenomenal. And how to tell a good lie with a straight face, because I do it with my kids. And truly, I would just have to say he's the genuineness that comes from him, the support that you get from him. And Michelle, absolutely, he is a giver. Being one of 9, I had food insecurity. And so for me coming to college, this big place, track was secure for me. It's what I knew how to do. And James just built layers around it, right? It was fun. Being a D1 athlete is tough, but he made it fun and tough. And he's absolutely right when he said he did things to get our minds off of running to be prepared to run. Phenomenal. Didn't understand this magic until I'm later in life, but hearing it and repeating it was like, you were a genius before your time. And I think Dana and I were you were team 2, Dana. I think I was team 3. I'm going 36 years back. I got a giggle when Tiffany said 2005 she dated herself. I was like, child, let me tell you. Dana and I think we pointed to each other like, baby. So I thought there were some guinea pig things that he did with us, because running the golf course hills was not fun. And I'll never forget Joyce Wilson joining us saying, "Oh, I don't remember this." And there was just so many wonderful moments that hurt, because track practices did hurt. We sweated, we did our things, the hills and whatnot. But we did it for our coach, and we did it for our team, and he built that, he made that. And with that strength, I graduated undergrad, graduated grad. Absolutely. My work is connected with the World Health Organization and the CDC, and what I do for the University of Michigan, and all things health and well-being. And I would have to tell you that I'm in my backpack wherever I go, I take Henry. And I think he knows that. In that particular way, because he's taught me so many things, and so many things that I've carried on and carried forward to my student athletes. And he knows I've called him on some things and asked him for some advice. But if you get to know the man, you are lucky. If you get to be in his circle of giving, you are blessed. And for that, in my entire life, coming from a little place called Maybe, Michigan, where everything was white, seeing a Black coach, a loud, lying Black coach who made it fun, was phenomenal for me. What more can I say about that? That being grounded and rooted in someone who cared so deeply for us and for our team. It's just, he was an athlete. He knew how to talk about an athlete. He brought the best out of athletes. He definitely brought the best out of me. And I, like I said, 36 years later, if he asked me to run a 40, I'd beat a football player right now. I'm just saying.
Beast mode. Beast mode. Beast mode. Speaking of beast mode, Brandon,
I got a 40. I still got a 40. Don't ask me for an alumni race, but I got a 40.
And that's not a 40 ounce. That's a true 40.
Thank you for that clarification, sir. Thank you for that clarification.
I got you back. Hey, speaking of having her back, Brandon, Bob, Mr. Bob, we're gonna circle back to you after we talk with Brandon. I know she just came on. How you doing, Brandon?
Brandy.
Can you hear me?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Me. Sorry, I was late with the time difference.
No, you're right on time. Thank you so much for sacrificing time. We just want you. We're kind of going through Coach and talking about how he impact people's lives, especially on and off the track. And so we want to just go ahead and talk to you, and then we'll segue to Mr. Bob back in the back. Okay.
Amazing. Well, first of all, time for Coach Henry is never a sacrifice. It's a blessing to be able to be here for sure. I joined the team 26 years ago, and essentially I was a walk-on. And I tell people all the time, my dad is my best friend, but Coach Henry is like a second dad to me. And I think that is like so important, because usually people say that because they didn't have a father figure in my life, but in their lives. But I just feel as like both of them had such an impact on me. When I walked on the team, my only goal was just to make the travel team. I just didn't want to be like one of the girls who had to stay home. And I would just run and look at the sheet and just hope to make the travel team. And Coach Henry, I always say, he taught me lots of things, but the three things that like really bubbled to the top is, one was about belief. He just taught me early on, I was aiming too low. Like, why was I trying to be like the 28th girl to be on the travel team when I could have, much bigger dreams for what was possible? And outside of my parents, he was really the first human who believed that I could be really exceptional at something. And when someone believes in you so deeply, I remember the first time I was a long jumper, and I just like wanted to jump 19 feet. And he said, "You're going to jump 20 feet." And I was like, "I don't think so." And like I jumped 20 feet, and I turned and looked at him. I'm like, "How did you know that?" And he was like, he always was 2 steps ahead of you, taught you that your work ethic would pay off. And so I started to just realize that, if I got there before everybody and I stayed late, that the results would come. And really having this level of belief in myself is something that I've taken with me from the university, just in life, and realized that more than anything would allow me to be successful. And then he also taught me responsibility, right? Like I was a walk-on. So some days early on when I wasn't so good, my freshman year wasn't as great as my sophomore through senior year. It's like I would just kind of like miss practice or not come. And he would just look at me and be like, "If you don't want to come, you don't have to come." And I was like, "You don't care?" He's like, "Well, I care, but it's your choice." And he just really taught me early on that like it was about being responsible. And I was adult, and no one was going to come to the dorm and drag me down to the track, that I had to show up. And I was just, it's a lesson that I think kids aren't getting these days, in terms of that they have to be responsible for themselves. And I definitely will continue to instill that in my kid. And then I think the last thing was just really around, not the last thing, but I don't want to hog all the time, but really about just not getting too high or not getting too low. Like I remember the first time I won a Big Ten championship, and he just looked at me and said, "You were supposed to win." And I was like, "But it's like such a big deal." And he was like, "Well, you were supposed to win, and we'll go on to the next thing." And, the first time I went to NCAAs, I performed terribly. And he was like, "Were you there just to watch the people?" He's like, "Or did you come to perform?" Right. And so there was always this sense of like, don't get too high, don't get too low, your day will come. But what really was about, doing the work and knowing that he always believed in me and believed in what was possible. I, far exceeded my own thoughts, right? Like I literally started out as a girl who just wanted to be on the travel team. And then, I broke the Big Ten record and the school record and did these really amazing things that still bring a smile to my face, that I never, ever, ever thought was possible. And I think that when we think about our communities and communities that look like us, it's that sense of belief that we have to continue to instill in people before they realize it for themselves, that help really, uplift people and change. And so I know that my sentiments, what I love about moments like this is that my sentiments are echoed by the hundreds of people that he has impacted. And so I think what makes it so special is just that like my story is just like the next athlete's story, just like the next athlete's story, because even though I am absolutely his favorite, he treated everyone.
Oh, no. I was his favorite.
No. I got favorites. So that was a version of a favorite. And please let me say that I called my mother and told her that I've got a college coach saying I am his favorite. And then I heard him tell Dana, and then I heard him tell Sophia. And I was like, I had to call my mama back, and I was like, no, I'm not his favorite.
But the difference is I never call my mama back. I know I'm his favorite. He's just telling the rest of y'all, but I know I'm his favorite.
And I just want to add that one of the things that struck me when I ran for Michigan is I went from being the best in the city to like the middle of the Big Ten. And I said to James my summer before my junior year, I want to try the multi-event. I've been watching these women. I think I can do this. And James was like, you run the 1 and the 2, but let's do it. And sure enough, I ended up placing in the top 3 the rest of my time at Michigan in the multi-event. And he taught me every single field event and how to pace myself through the half, which felt like the 5,000 to me. And he taught me that if you want to dream a thing big, even if it's outside your wheelhouse, you'll have support, you'll have love, have encouragement. And he managed to coach us without berating us, without belittling us, without shaming us. And so many coaches, even today, don't know how to do that with
He
young
talked about us, but it wasn't disrespectful.
young women.
Yeah,
Nope.
it wasn't. It was. I never felt disrespected in the personality, exchange that we had. I mean, he let us have a little bit of lip back, but for the most part, the respect was there, and we knew he cared. And so any jokes was all jokes aside. He was never personally attacking us. I never felt personally attacked as a young woman. I never did.
And he was so young with us, Diane. I did not realize how young he was.
It took me a long time, Dana, and I'm like, wait a minute.
I was like, you're a kid. That's really impressive.
Wow, that is. Coach, who impact your coaching style?
My coaching style, just like my lifestyle, is there was a lot of good coaches out there that I took from or I didn't take from. For instance, there was Jack Harvey. He was a coach. He was very low key and quiet. So I took some of that from him, and not to get too excited. Red Simmons, the first coach with the women's program, he was very philosophical, and I took some of that from him. And then there was a coach at Michigan State, Coach Bibbs. The things that when I was an athlete, I seen him run up to his athletes when they did their worst, and he put his arms around them. And I learned really quickly that when they succeed, everyone's going to put their arm around them. And when they don't succeed, no one puts their arm around them. And I wanted to make sure that I was encouraging the young ladies, but I also made sure I came and spoke to them when they didn't do well. And to this day, I still watch sports. If a field goal, miss a field goal, 1 or 2 people might pat him on the back. Yeah. I'm like, look at that hypocritical athlete. Yeah. If he had a 59er, they'll put him on 59-footer on his shoulder, and they'll do all that kinds of stuff. So I wanted to make sure that I was even keeled and that I was just letting them know that they were athletes and they were students, and it wasn't the end of the world. So Coach Bibbs took a lot. I got a lot from him. And then there were some other coaches out there that would berate the kids and yell at the kids and put them down. And I said, wow, that's a perfect example of how not to do it. So there was more coaches out there that did the negative stuff that I said, that's not my style. Right. The same way with my parenting and my marriage and all that other kinds of stuff. I tend to do a lot of things that I would say, this is how I wanted to be treated. Right. I didn't play football because they hit on you and they banged on your head and hit your shoulders and hit your chest and yelling at you and grabbing you by the jersey and stuff. I'm like, I can't respond that way. So I wanted to make sure that I did not do those kinds of things as a father, as a parent, and as a husband.
Well, I mean, well said, man. Yeah, sticking to your belief and that, and one thing that you keep radiating is just your belief in other people. Like you empower them to believe in themselves, And Bob, I want you to talk about how Coach powered you to to walk again. He got some like healing hands going over there, man. What's going on? Talk to me, Bob. Oh, hold on. Let me see. We can't hear you. Unmute. Bob, hold on a second. You got to unmute. Can you mute? Yeah, hit the unmute button. There you go. Can you hear?
That's better. That's
There
better.
you
That's better. Phew, we just got, I was running out of power and it was starting to get dim.
Oh.
And its flasher came on and I'm thinking, oh no, it's charging. It's good now.
Good.
Phew. Well, listening to all these accolades, I can add a few, but the one thing that Coach gives is a sense of confidence. He just lets you know that, hey, this can be done, and you will do it for him. And I ran into that. Well, I sold Michelle and him their first house. Well, not the first house, but the first house in Ann Arbor. And in fact, he had been recommended to me by the men's coach, Jack Harvey. And James was a little nervous because he'd been beaten up by a bunch of realtors before and hadn't had a very, very good treatment. But and he was nervous all the way up to the time of closing that something was gonna, you know, the wall was gonna fall and crash his deal. But it worked out and everything was fine. And how long have you been there? About 30 something years, isn't it?
28 years.
28, yeah. And I really didn't see James again till 17 years later. I was walking around the indoor track with a friend hanging onto my gate belt. I was on a walker and I'd had an operation that put me into a wheelchair, and the OTP or the PT people had got me to the point where I could stand up in that walker and I could make it move about as fast as a 6-month-old baby crawls. And I had friends that were willing to walk with me all the way around a quarter-mile track. It took us 41 minutes to do that. And James walked into the indoor track while we were in there, a buddy and I, and he yells across the track. He says, "Hey, I think I can help you." And I thought, well, there's a great idea. And when he got closer, it turns out we recognized each other. And he took me to the tables, the stretching tables out. And and you're in this huge, monstrous building, and these little teeny tables are down here. He started stretching me, and in 20 minutes, he had me 50% closer to being a full flex person. And he looked at me and he says, I'll bet you I can have you walking in 6 months. And I laughed. I thought, James, I've got all these doctors, all these OT people, all these other people telling me my proprioception's not coming back. Your tumors, cut it off. And he says, don't listen to those guys.
What do they know?
And he did. He imbued me with the confidence that, son of a gun, maybe he can do this. So I signed on, and he was going to do it for free. I'm not a man of no means, by all means, or whatever. So I do pay him for what he does, but I couldn't have paid him enough to do what he did. Within 6 months, he had me walking. It was pretty ugly because I was using having to use canes and all that. But I was walking, and I could do it without anything. If I wasn't careful, I didn't fall on my face. But within another year, I was walking without a cane, and within 2 years, I was running, jogging as fast as I had when I was 55. And of course, I was in my late 60s at this point. And the one thing James did, though, is he always kept me, what would you call it, at bay in terms of my athleticism. See, I was a wrestler at Michigan. I was a 3-time All-American. I'd been placed in the top 3 or 4 every year I was competing in the NCAAs. And so I thought I was an athlete. James he made me prove it. Boy, he kicked my butt. And that I think that was one of the ways he used to motivate me. But the man gave me 7 extra years of full body life. I mean, I could walk. We ended up taking trips all around the world. We went to China. We went down to the south, almost to the South Pole. We're down at Cape Horn, and just all over the place. Had a wonderful time. And about 5 years ago, it started going downhill. And James and I are still trying to find that magic. And who knows? We might just do it. But it certainly keeps me entertained, if nothing else, and strained. So he's been a real godsend to me. And I'll tell you, he's taught me an awful lot about being a real human being too. Some of the things he does, and he comes up with some of the most unbelievable ideas. And I tried occasionally to do some of that myself. It's fun, but and he's told me all about all of you and all about the years he did this thing, all just motivating all these people. And you can see it works. It really works. And he's the pinnacle. I think he's probably done better than almost anybody coming out of New Haven, don't you think, James?
Well, there's a couple guys that made it to the pros. Dwight Lee was a name of a gentleman that he made it to the pros, and a couple other really good athletes. And I use they were some of my role models too, but sometimes they go down a different road, and that was a role model to not go down that road.
Yeah, some things you don't want to model.
Right.
Yeah. And James is just, what would you call it? Just a real well-rounded human being. Mm-hmm. We argue about religion all the time just for the fun of it. And I haven't coaxed him to the good side, and he hasn't coaxed me to the bad side. So actually, I wouldn't say he's on the bad side. He's just on the, well, I don't really know what I think side. And he's not about to have anybody turn him. So that's good. It's fun, though. But he's been a shining light in my life, and I certainly appreciate you, James. And I even if I don't get back to where I'd like to be, I enjoy the stories getting there. So it's always a kick having him here, stretching me out. So thanks again, James. Good
You're welcome.
About all the other lives you've helped.
I enjoy working with you. We still go 3 days a week. I still get over there and we sit and stretch and we still work out. And like I probably said to many of the athletes is that you're not doing it now. And in 4 years, 5 years from now, if you do nothing, you're guaranteed not to do it. But if you got 3-4 years in you, let's just take it one step at a time and let's just see what happened. And if he never gets up and walk again, at least it'll be a better quality of life. And we're all going to go down the hill. It's just that how smooth can we go? And that's what I'm trying to do with my stretching myself. And that's what I do with you, Bob. But one thing you did forget to tell him is that I got you dancing.
Yes.
So I got you in the ballroom dancing. I was so pleased to see Bob out there double turning and doing the reverse turns and the lady walks and all that stuff. So that was still kind of fun. So
yes,
we all ride high at a certain point, and then we could go to the other side. We're going to go down, and I'm just going to take that ride with you and make it as smooth as possible, buddy.
Hallelujah. Well, we're still working, and
Yeah.
who knows if I don't go broke. I don't think I'll go broke, but
We can walk you through your first contract. Get an NIL.
yeah, that's it. Well, he let's put it this way: he was the absolute only person who thought I could walk again. And deep down inside, I had this sense that I could do much better than what I was doing, but I wasn't sure I could walk again. And he told me that, and he said, "Yeah, I'll get you walking." And I thought, well, this is a good gig. Let's try it. And son of a gun, it got me going. Got 7 more years of hot living. Wow. And even dancing. How do you like that?
Yeah.
Great. Well, I hope my testimony hasn't drugged us over into the beyond midnight. Oh, I guess we're okay. I'm not sure how far we were supposed to go. But great. Well, I thank you all too for your all your I call it testimony, but all your experiences with James is just phenomenal. Mm-hmm. He's the only man that knows the human body so well. He knows the human body better than any physician I've ever met.
Wow. And
just watching him coach these girls, especially the Feely sisters, they'd make a 40-yard run or a 60-yard run and roll over those, and he'd have them twist their hand just a little bit, how about just about 15 degrees, and there went 1,000th of a second, just like that. And
wow.
So you do that 50 times and you've got a pretty good arrangement. So yeah, he could bring the best out in all of them, that's for sure. I'm through. But yeah, you gotta love James Henry. The one thing I always thought would be fun to be, he used to have those when you had all of the girls do the pop dance, or what would they call that? When you had them all at the airport in a public spot and they'd all of a sudden break into a dance.
Or a flash dance.
Flash dance. And I always thought that'd be more fun to do with a group. And the way you described it, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I've done a couple pranks at the airport and it didn't work out that well. Because you got to be a certain decor and you can't make so much noise. And we had a couple complaints when I did a few things that the kids responded accordingly, but then the public wasn't too crazy about it. But Bob, I appreciate you, buddy. I think you're a good guy, and we're going to keep working on this as long as I can move and I can move you. We're going to keep moving, and we're just going to keep at it, taking it a day at a time.
That's it.
And I got you 11 o'clock tomorrow. I'll be there.
Hey, don't be setting no appointments, Coach, on here. Hey, we trying to celebrate you. We appreciate you. We want you to say a few parting words, Coach, and then we're going to shut it down.
You want me to say a few closing words?
Exactly.
Well, I appreciate everyone here. I try to make everyone special, and they all are my favorites. My favorites from Dundee, my favorites from Cass Tech, my favorite Brandy. She was such a spark plug, and boy, she was more like me than you can imagine. You heard the story how a-hole I was early in my career. She was just I love her to death. She was just a spoiled brat. And I brought the best out of her, and I bring the best out of all the kids. And the timing to retire has been very appropriate, because the things that I did and said to those kids, those young ladies now, back then, I think I would have been reprimanded or fired. Because some of the things that I said to Brandy, I hope and I think it stood her up and made her say, okay, I got it. I'm ready to go now. But now, you can't say some of those things. So I appreciate all the kind words. I appreciate everything that you've done. And it's always been my goal in life. And I said this to my wife many, many times, is that why are people talking kind things about that person in that casket?
Yep.
That person can't hear that. What the heck's going on? Why don't they say it before they go? And as far as I know, my ticker is still ticking, and I'm here. And to hear the compliments, it just makes me feel so good and warm inside. And now I can, when I do go, you can just say we already said it, and he heard it, and he knows it, and I'm real happy for that.
Hallelujah.
MB, you on mute.
I said, wow, that's powerful, man. Thanks for sharing that, Coach. That's awesome. That's amazing.
Well, we thank y'all for coming.
Yes.
We thank you guys for coming and supporting Coach, and that's exactly why we do this, to give you your flowers while you're here, Coach. So we appreciate
I really appreciate it. I feel really good inside, and I know my young ladies care for me, but sometimes seeing it is or hearing it is important. And I've learned with my wife that sometimes seeing it also is important. Is that the unfortunate part is that the kids are with you for 4 or 5 years and then they move on, but they don't move on because they're still in my life, and I still see them, and I still talk to them, and we still share our stories. And someone like Brandy, she had a child, and that kid was maybe 2 years old, if that old. And the first time I met him, we clicked, and we had such fun. And it's like, gosh, I want to do this more and more and more. And that's what I want to do now. I'm very childish, as my wife would say. So I want to continue working with kids, and I got a grandbaby coming, a third grandbaby coming any day now. I'm looking forward to playing with her, and that's why I do my stretches and do as much as I can, because I want to be able to throw her up in the air when mom and grandma's not watching. I want to put her on my back, and I want to continue to do that. I want to work with the next generation. So I appreciate everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Coach, man. I'm so glad that we get to do this. It was an honor to be able to get to. The Bible says give honor where honor's due. So I'm just glad God used us to honor you, because, man, you're a mighty man of God, and everything you're about, man, is awesome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you guys so much for coming out.
To Baseline with K. Lou and MB. We appreciate y'all for coming. God bless you, and good night.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everybody.
Appreciate y'all. Y'all my favorites.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
Let me get out of here.